Hi, Ellen.
Good morning. I'm so
Good
happy
morning. We're
here.
so we're so happy to have you for our Summer of Self-Love series, and I don't think there's anyone more relevant to talk to us today about why self-love is important. For the audience and for those of you who don't know Ellen, she has a beautiful memoir out that is called Nothing Ever Goes On Here. I have to double check the name. I've read it so many times, but it's a wonderful memoir. She is talented as a writer, as an actor, as a musician, and as a spiritual healer. Ellen is many different things all in one beautiful soul. And speaking of soul, she has a new podcast out that if you haven't heard, I really encourage you to download it, subscribe to it, check it out. It's called Heart and Soul with Ellen Newhouse. And Ellen, there's so much I could go on and on about you, but you're based in Seattle. You love nature, you love people, you love a lot of things. Tell us about you and what you love and what we're going to talk about today is self-love.
What excitement. Whoever's little boy or little one is there, maybe you want to put your thing on mute. And good morning, Monica. Thank you so much for having me here. I love doing these summers of love. And to get started, what I'd love to do rather than start talking is I'd love everyone who is on the call, let's just take a moment together. Let's put our feet on the ground. Let's put our hands on our hearts. And let's let go of anything that's bugging you, anything that's bothering you in your life. And just know that it'll be there waiting for you when you come back. So just come here right now and be present with yourself and just take a beautiful breath into your heart and exhaling it out. And just one more together, inhaling and exhaling. All right, now I can get started, Monica. I just love becoming more present in our beings. And really, when we become more present with ourselves, we can really move into loving ourselves. So, how I got here, to answer your question, Monica, was through a lot of pain and suffering. And what I learned through a very dramatic and very traumatic childhood was that love was the answer to all of my troubles. And if you take time to read the book, you will read all about the trauma and drama I have been through. But on the other side of that journey, what I learned was how important it was to begin with me. Because no matter what is going on inside of you, no matter what is going on external to you, no matter what's going on with your husband, your girlfriend, your boyfriend, your wife, your children, the world, it has to start with you. Peace begins with love. And I'm talking about not like a mamby-pamby love, but a real tough love, a love that says, I love you even with all your crap. I love you even though you just had like the biggest, worst meltdown in the world and you were a jerk to somebody. I love you. That kind of love is very difficult. And so my journey began at age 26, and I am now, as of a few days ago, 62. So you do the math, I don't know, it's like 36 years or something. And I am still daily working on myself, learning new ways to love myself. Just this week, I made a realization that to eat sitting down 3 meals a day for someone like me who gets going very early in the morning and just plows through my day because I have lots going on, to sit down And to love on myself with beautiful food is a new part of my journey. So I want to give you a beginning place to begin, regardless of where you are in your journey. Let's just write down the following questions. Do I love myself? Take it out of a 10. Maybe you're at 3, maybe you're at a 7, maybe you're at a 10. If you're at a 10, God bless you, go to an 11. How can you love yourself more? And the reason we want to focus on love is because love is energy, right? And everything begins with us. So no matter what it looks like you could say, well, the world's a mess. Well, guess what, people? We are the world. If you want to see a better world, you got to get inside and work on loving you and loving those places that are really hard to love. Because, we can look outside and we can blame everything and anything, and we can fight with people and we can fight with the enemy. But guess what? The enemy lives inside of you. What do I mean by that? So whatever you dislike, whomever you hate or dislike, that's your work. That's where you need to work on you. So what do I mean by that? Whatever we dislike outside of ourselves is a part of us that we dislike. And if we bring love to it, oh my God, people, you wouldn't believe what you can do alone in your own bedroom, in your own living room. You can change the world by changing you, because we're all vibration. As we vibrate and as we up level our vibration, we're like the rock that threw in the pond, yeah? And it ripples. And so as we love ourselves, our love vibration ripples out into the world. And so as we work on ourselves, we make possible the world to love on itself. For the fight that you see out in the world, whatever it is, whether it's in the United States where there's conflict between some, not all white people and not all black people, but some, where there's a fight between some people and immigrants, where there's a fight between, wherever there's war in the world, right? So what we can do is we can affect that by working on the place where we most don't like ourselves. So the next question would be, what do you most dislike in yourself? And really be honest. It's okay. We all have places that we don't like. We all have things about ourselves that we don't like. And then can you love on that? Okay, and for all of my women, I want to say, let's look at this. Let's look at how we treat our bodies. Do you look in the mirror and say, not happy with that figure, right? Well, that's not love. And maybe you are not happy with some aspect of your body. I will guarantee you this. If you will love on your body, oh my gosh, it will shift. I want you to start to think of something. And I heard something recently, and it really gave me pause. This woman said, I am such a good owner of the body. And I was like, ooh, she caught my attention. It was as though she owned something really valuable. It was called a body. And so she began to appreciate that precious commodity. And you guys, it's very precious because, we all imagine that we have good health for the rest of our lives, but nothing is guaranteed. So Let's say you've got some juggle, you know? We all have a little juggle after the pandemic that we don't like. I want you to get into loving on the juggle. Why? Because the juggle got us through this pandemic. Now, we're not over the pandemic yet, but we're through a really hard part. And the body went into protection. And so we got a little extra juggle. It's not a big deal. I promise you. I've been in the gym working on my juggle, and what I can tell you is if you love on it, it's going to get better. And yesterday I was working with a patient and who I hadn't seen in a while, and she knows this work well, and she and I heard her say, "Oh, why can't I just get over this? Why can't I just move on?" So if you've been working on yourself for a very long time and you feel that way, I want you to stop and hear it. What is that voice saying? That's not the voice of love. It's the voice of perhaps a parent, an annoyed parent. Like, oh, like, why can't you just get it, right? And then we put that parent in our head. The parent can die. The parent can, you can become an adult and you don't live with your parents anymore. But the parental voice is in your head now. And it sounds like an annoyed person. Now, is that loving? I don't think so. So if you've been on the journey for a really long time and you're still frustrated, you're like, oh, why can't I get this? Trust me. Hear it and bring yourself back to love. All right, another great way to get to those voices in our head, now that I'm thinking about it, is I want you to go to a mirror. And I want you to look into the mirror and I want to look in your beautiful eyes. And I want you to say, Monica, I love you. So now you put in your name where I used Monica's name, and I want you to repeat it. So actually take a moment right now and just imagine as I'm saying this, imagine yourself doing that. And breathe and really feel it. Monica, I love you and I think you are amazing. And I just want you to notice what's happening. What's happening is these little critters start creeping in. Oh, really? Who do you think you are? Oh, well, if you think you're so amazing, what about the that you didn't do yet, right? Just listen. Listen to the critters. Don't ignore them. I really want you to hear them. Like, they're little cicadas, little cicadas. They're annoying, right? But hear them. And as you hear them, say, I hear you, and Monica, I love you. I love you. So I'd like you to do this for 20 minutes. When you're done with this exercise, I want you to write down all the voices that you heard. Don't be ashamed. Don't be embarrassed. You know, it's amazing. We can be alone in our own room. We're like, oh God, I didn't say that. Oh, I don't really still feel that way, do I? Yeah, it's still there. And it's okay. Because what it means is that that's the next piece of work. And you know something? If those voices have been there for a really long time and they're still not healed, it's okay. It's all we're doing here, by the way, on planet Earth. We all came here to do this work. Now, it may look like we've got fancy jobs, we want to make a lot of money, but the truth is that all of those goals are supporting our soul work. Because that's, for me at least, why we came here to planet Earth. We came as a soul, we got a body, to take good care of, to hold our souls in, right? To house our souls. So we want to take good care and be grateful this beautiful body. No matter its shape, it's gorgeous, just saying. And we do this soul work, right? And yes, we have jobs, we've got wives, we've got children, but we're doing our soul work. Now, I have seen, Monica, there's been some chats. Are there questions?
I think people are commenting on self-love, but one of the things that you said, and I want to also share an example of this, is about, those voices and talking to ourselves. And one of the things I realized is in the morning, when you get up and get your day going, you're saying good morning to your spouse or your children or whoever, people on the phone that you're talking to work, you're saying good morning to those people, but do you take time to say good morning to yourself? And so right?
That's such a good point. No.
And so, similar to what you're saying, I started implementing a morning practice where I was like, good morning, self, and greeted myself in the same way that I would want to be greeted by others or greet others. And just that difference in engaging with yourself and acknowledging yourself
Yeah.
every morning for me has been a really good grounding practice.
I love that. And the next little piece that you can add, actually, if you have a moment, is to journal. Because for me, journaling has been the gift that keeps on giving. Because it reveals us to us, and it reveals the places that in our busy lives, we can get running and we forget to take care of ourselves, especially women. We as women do not focus on ourselves. And hence, that's why I have made this commitment to sit down and eat 3 meals a day, sitting down, breathing, experiencing my food. Why? Because I can get moving like the best of them. Monica can attest to this. And I forget about me.
Right.
And so bringing, like Monica said, we say good morning. I love you. Good morning. Take some time to journal if you have it. If you don't, that's fine. You can journal later. Meals. For so many of us women, we don't actually eat enough, frankly, and we don't eat enough of the foods that really help build our bodies. That's a whole nother talk we could do, but to love on ourselves is to make delicious food for ourselves. We're so busy often, making food for the children, making food for the husbands, making food for the PTA, the whatever, the office, whomever you feed. What about feeding ourselves? And to that is, what feeds you? What really feeds you? And the question, it's such a loving question because we want to know beyond all of our goals is what feeds me? Maybe I have a job that I don't particularly care for. Okay, maybe you have to stay in that job until you can figure out the next step. But in the meantime, you can ask yourself, what feeds me? How can I love me even though I may hate my job? How can I love me? Because I will tell you, whatever you're unhappy with in your life, it starts with you. If you don't have like a job that you're loving, it starts with you. So if you start loving on you, everything in your life is going to get infinitely better. And let's say you don't care to love on yourself or you don't understand what that means. Just start with these small exercises. What if there's a voice that says, "Oh my God, are you serious? Like, how selfish could you be to love on yourself?" Like, ugh, right? A lot of us have been told that we were selfish growing up. And so we don't understand why we would want to love on ourselves. And again, I'll go back to everything is energy. And if we love on ourselves, then the world gets better. If you need something external as a reason to begin with to love on yourself, use that, right? Let's say you're upset about your children, love on yourself. Why? Because you are in connection in relationship to your children, your vibration will affect them. And by the way, you're the model for your kids. And so whatever they feel, not what you tell them, trust me on this, whatever they feel and watch is what they're going to also do. So that brings me to affirmations. So a lot of people use affirmations. I love myself, I'm awesome, I love myself, but they don't feel it. So I think affirmations are great if you get into the feeling place. You cannot, nothing will change just by thinking it. You need to marry it to your heart, to your emotions. Why? Because emotions are lots of energy, right? And thoughts are energy also, but your thought forms without the emotion are like a lower vibration. And so if you want to change your life, you want to use like your car. Okay, you go and you put in the best fuel. You don't put in the worst fuel. If you want to have a car that runs really well, you want to use the perfect fuel for your car. Excuse me. So we want the perfect fuel for our beings, right? And the perfect fuel is thoughts married to my emotions. So if I say, "Oh, Ellen, I love you." No, I want to demonstrate it without the feeling. Ellen, I love you. It doesn't have that impact if I say, "Oh, Ellen, I love you. And I think you are amazing." Can you feel the difference? I certainly feel the difference. Monica, could you feel the difference?
You know what I love about that, Ellen? It's so funny. Your default is that true
I
an emotion because you had to like consciously think, oh wait, how do I do it when I'm not having emotion? Like you've wired yourself in that way to connect your thought and emotion. And the other thing that reminds me of is, some of my background, I did some marketing research, and there's this study on, I don't know how many of you are old enough to remember this, the McDonald's campaign, I'm loving it. And that campaign actually backfired for them, even though they invested millions and millions of dollars in it, because the campaign was catchy, I'm loving it. But when people came into the stores, they didn't feel the energy of the workers loving it and loving to be there. And that's a very tangible way to describe what you just said, right? Which is if there's a disconnect between the words and the experience or the emotion, it doesn't fly. And
Yeah.
so I love that. So what if somebody is saying, okay, I get that, that makes sense to me,
Mhm.
but how do I go from just head or words to
Yeah.
heart?
Per-
Expand on that a little bit.
I love that. Okay. And for those of you who are on the call, I want you to know I started off with hating myself. And I started off thinking that I was ugly, so ugly that I wouldn't try out for cheerleading squad that I desperately wanted to do. And I know now that seems silly, but at that time, oh my gosh, it meant the world to me. And I didn't think I was pretty enough um, to try out. And I didn't love myself enough to try out. And I didn't think I was good enough, and which is kind of crazy because I was a gymnast. But so I want you to know that's where I started from, and so I believe anybody can do this. And I've worked with thousands and thousands of women and men over the last 31 years, from really horrible childhoods and horrible places to really coming into love. So I want you to think about, if you are somebody who thinks, how do I do that? I want you to think about someone you love. Maybe it's a kitty cat. Maybe it's a dog. Maybe it's a baby that you know or your own baby. Maybe it's maybe you're a nature lover. Maybe it's the ocean that you love. Find something that you love. And so, right now, just think about something or someone you love. And I want you to feel it as you think about that. Really think, like, really bring it all up, right? And notice how you feel in your body. And then, slowly but surely, you're going to transfer that experience to you. And so you would think about the kitty cat or the dog or a baby, and then you would say your name and you'd put your name in. Now, in the beginning, sometimes a lot of pain comes up, as it did for me, and a lot of frustration. In fact, I had so much frustration doing this that I broke 7 mirrors on my way to loving myself. I would get so frustrated, and I started younger, so I was filled with piss and vinegar and a lot of anger, which was completely appropriate to my situation. And so I broke 7 mirrors to get here, and it's okay. So instead of breaking 7 mirrors, what I recommend is something called the wood chopper. And oh gosh, I know we're going to run out of time. Monica, can I do the wood chopper? Do you think I have a moment? Because I want to make sure we have a sound healing. Okay, so I'm going to demonstrate it. Oh goodness, I have to stand up and my camera. Anyway, all right, I will try it really quickly. All right, what you're going to do is you're going to stand up. You're going to put your hands above your head like that. Not lacing it, but going like that. You breathe in. Oops, and I have a necklace on. Oh, goodness. Breathe in and come over. Ha! Ha! And it's called the wood chopper because what you're doing is you're imagining, oh, goodness, you're imagining that you're chopping wood. And it allows for all of your anger and frustration to come out. If you have a bad back, do not do that. I do an abbreviated wood chopper with, say, a pillow, and you go, ha! And you really use your voice. It's necessary to use your voice because we often refuse to get our anger out of our voice. And we need to do that because the body, as a beautiful title of a book says, the body keeps score. And the body will hold on to your frustration and anger, and you don't want to do that. The most loving thing you can do is to get it out of your body. If you feel shy to use your voice at first, journal it. Write down all your frustration. Write down all your anger. And you know, I'm from New York. In Seattle, people are shy to use their emotions, but for New Yorkers who are on the call today, you'll get me. And for those of you who are not from New York, just let me extend my little New York attitude to you. I give you permission. I encourage you to get your anger out, get your frustration out, because underneath that is a lot of love. So I know we're running out of time. One thing
We're okay for a few minutes. One of the
yeah,
things, Ellen, I want to add related to the chat is, you know, Kathleen had commented about it was really hard to do after the loss of a child, which again are deep sympathies for Kathleen in that situation. And I know you've also had a tremendous amount of loss and trauma in your life. So when really, you know, horrific life events have happened, how do you help process some of that related, I think, to grief, to
yeah.
this feeling of love? Can you address that?
Absolutely. So, Kathleen, first of all, oh, I send you so much love. That's a big one to go through, and I have walked that journey with a few patients over the course of 31 years. So, the first thing I would say is really to allow what is. So, right now in your life, what might be is a lot of grief and a lot of pain. And, grief and pain have their own journey and have their own timing. And grief is so interesting. It can look different than love, but honestly, the most loving thing we can do is to just allow the grief and not push ourselves, not force. It could be 6 months, it could be a year, it could be 10 years, it could be 20 years. And it's okay. The most loving thing right now, I don't know your circumstance completely, but the best thing you could do right now is just to allow to be exactly where you are and let it be okay. Knowing that grief has its own timing, and the most loving thing we can do is to allow ourselves to be exactly where we're at. So I hope that that will help a little bit. If you want more information, feel free. My website will be someplace with this, and you can get in touch with me. So, Monica, did that answer
Yeah,
your
thank
question?
you. Thank you, Ellen. And yes, your website is on the email that went out to everyone this morning and will be on the follow-up. And this call will also be recording. So just in terms of a time check, we're 35 minutes in now.
Okay.
And we can spend a few more minutes with any other questions before going to the sound healing, or if you have a few other thoughts that you want to share before we go into the sound healing. And again, if you have questions in the chat, let us know. And Kathleen responded, thanking you.
Good. 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 So yes, so are there any other questions that you see, Monica?
No questions. Some affirmation about how hard it is to love on yourself, and putting others first, which you've talked about. Um, Grief and loss of mobility also adds to the grieving process. Somebody commented.
Yeah. So let me address any kind of grief because we've had a big year of grief and a lot of trauma actually going through the pandemic. So um, what I want to say about that is that grief is its own animal. And in fact, my mother actually died last June 10th from COVID that exasperated her Parkinson's and Alzheimer's. So in a way, for my mother, COVID was a blessing because it sped up the process that she had been deeply in for many, many years. However, I thought, being who I am and all the work my mom and I have done together, I thought, I'm good. I understood that her body was done. I understood that she was ready. I was ready, supposedly. And you guys, oh my goodness. I was not grieving in the way that we normally think of grieving, like a lot of sobbing, as I did when my dad passed many, many years ago. My body went into grief. So, what did that look like? Excuse me. If you know what projectile vomiting looks like, my body had projectile diarrhea. And it was shocking to me. And I became very concerned, obviously, because this went on for months. And I finally got in touch with a gastroenterologist who knew me for about 15 minutes because of a colonoscopy. And I explained everything and I said, I'm very concerned. And she said, "Not worried, Ellen." I said, "Why?" And she said, "Oh, my dear, you're grieving your mom's death." Well, of course, in that moment, all the tears came. And I was shocked. Now, I'm a healthcare provider. I was shocked. This went on for 8 months. 8 months. And only about 2 months ago did it absolutely end on a dime. Like There was nothing that I could do to change it. My body needed to let go, to grieve things that I didn't even know. And you know what? It was none of my business, frankly, because I had processed, I'd been in therapy for 1,000 years, working on myself, doing spirit work, doing all sorts of healing. Whatever was left was my body needing to grieve that. Now, so grief can look different, and we just must allow the grief to run its course. If, I think it's Gail who was lost mobility, whoever it was. Yes, Gail. Yes. So this is an interesting journey, the losing of mobility. It's hard, right? However, I want Gail to ask you this question is what are the gifts and the blessings that you are receiving? For example, last January, I broke my right femur, my right leg. And I am somebody who moves a lot. You probably can tell I'm very animated. And I had to sit still for 12 weeks. Now, I knew at the end of those 12 weeks that I would walk, right? You may be somebody who will never gain your mobility. I don't know. But both is true because I've worked with people with no mobility as well. And here's what I'm going to say is that there are many blessings. You may not be happy, and you don't have to be happy about it. Be mad. Really be mad. Be mad at God. Be mad at the universe. If you're mad, be mad. Trust me. God and I, we fight a lot. Okay? And if God can't take it, he's not the God. Forget it. It's not the one you want. Be mad if you're mad. Start there. And also look at what lessons, what gifts is your soul getting from slowing down and from perhaps having to ask people for help. Many people that I work with mobility issues for, say they're paralyzed or they have ALS or they have Parkinson's, many people need to learn how to ask for help, how to be more vulnerable in allowing other people in. So there are many lessons. Ask, what blessing? What is my soul learning? How am I growing deeper? Okay, I hope that helps. Monica.
One last question, Ellen. Miriam wrote, really, I think it's a two-part question. One is, she's been working on loving herself and as a result has chose to distance herself from other people. And then what you said about things not liking in other people are also reflections of ourselves. How do you reconcile that when you feel a need to
Love this.
distance yourself?
Okay.
I mean, that's a big one.
We could do a whole nother thing on this. So Miriam, I love this. Here's what I want you to do. I want you to take the person that you don't like or that you've distanced yourself from, and that's fine. Often we need to do that, okay, to be healthier and to take care of ourselves. However, there's still work to be done. So, hold on. What I'd like you to do, and this is for everybody, is I want you to write down the person's name. Let's say the person's name is Mary. Mary, you should have, and I want you to be horrible. I want you to be mean and crude and rude and write it down. You should have respected me. You should have loved me. You should have been on time. You should have not abandoned me. You should have, you are right there, Miriam. Give me a few shoulds. Can you tell me a few shoulds? No. Okay. You should have not been a shit. You should have listened to me. You should have paid attention. You should have, okay, that's enough. You get the idea. Then, and now see, I'm going to give a secret away. This is terrible. I don't really want to give the secret away, but I do. Okay, we get that all done, and then you're going to cross out Mary's name. And are you ready for this? Yes. There, you got it. You got it. You got it. Great. You're going to put your name in there. I know.
I just want to say when Ellen makes me do this, I stick out my tongue at her because I get so angry and I hate it because I know she's going to make me do it all the time.
I know.
But
So,
how and why? Why is it about me if I did not do that to myself? Like that's why it's a bit tricky.
yeah, so on some level you have.
Okay. And in
Yeah.
this case, it's that person had judged me.
Oh,
Okay.
good. Oh,
And I
perfect.
noticed it. I'm like, oh my God, I must be judging myself.
Exactly. So don't be worried. It's okay. It's all right. It's
Okay.
okay. It's all
Okay.
good. Here's the thing. We're all just growing. Okay? So don't judge the judging. Just notice, where are you still in judgment?
Hmm.
Trust me, we're all judging. Tell you, oh my God, I tell you stories about how I judge myself, okay? We're all judging. And we judge others, trust me. So, what you want to do is just be very gentle, very loving with yourself as you come into awareness. That's the hardest part with me when I'm working with patients. As soon as we become aware of our less than perfect selves, we jump to judging. Well, I shouldn't. No, 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 don't judge. Don't judge it. Don't judge it. Okay. And we got to have a little sense of humor, because if we get all like upset about the fact that we've been judging ourselves and aren't we further ahead and yada, 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 we're now like stopping ourselves. So don't judge, just notice and just become like a little explorer. Oh, okay. Oh, I'm judging in there. Oh, I'm judging in there. Oh, look at that little closet. I'm judging there. And then just begin to love on the part of you that you're judging.
Thank
You
you.
got it though. You got it.
Awesome.
So Ellen, in the interest of time, I think we wanted to close with a sound healing. And as a reminder, this will be recorded, and the recording will be up on the rev11.com past events side. After Ellen's recording, we're going to close out with a little bit more information, so please stay on. And then we will also be sending out an email today with how you can get in touch with Ellen if you want to follow her work or have more questions for her. And with that, Ellen, this has been such a beautiful conversation. This is my favorite part. You're so talented musically, and I love your sound healing. So why don't you prepare the room for this?
Alrighty, so again, just find a comfortable place to sit. You can stand if you want, or put your feet on the ground, and just once again put your hands on your heart. And all you have to do is just receive the sound. nice deep breath in and just allow yourself to just feel for a moment your beautiful hearts, knowing that you are pure love. And just slowly allow yourself to come back to the room. Wiggle your fingers. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes. And just know that this sound will work with you for the next 24 hours. So please, please, please drink lots of water. And now I'm going to say goodbye. I'll stay on, but I'm going to also thank both of you and Revel 11 for having me today. It has been such a joy.
We love you, Ellen, so much.
Thank you.
I am so lucky to work with Ellen regularly and highly recommend her new podcast, as Monica mentioned, and also her other services as well. Monica, did you have anything else to say, or should I go ahead and wrap it up?
Just thank you again, Ellen. It was really lovely. And Joni, why don't you take us through what's up next on Revel 11?